Welcome to the Clemson Dubcast. It is Friday, September 22nd. You're probably thinking we already had a podcast this week with Jeff Scott. Well, special guests and special occasions call for special measures, and we got to sit down with DeAndre McDaniel to reflect on his truly special weekend, getting inducted into the Clemson Athletics Hall of Fame. At TigerIllustrated.com, we have plenty of coverage of the big game. Not as big as we thought it was going to be a few weeks ago, but still pretty darn huge. My good friends Blake Smith and Brooke Archenhold have been part of the podcast since the beginning, way back in August of 2018. They have an accomplished team of personal injury attorneys at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold based in Greenville. They are Clemson people, and their skillful attorneys have decades of experience in complicated litigation matters, taking a special interest in medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, and neglect, car accident cases that have left the individuals involved in serious trouble. For a free consultation at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold, call 864-990-4581 or online at parhamlaw.com. That's P-A-R-H-A-M law.com. When you're ready for a complete renovation in your home or business, open the door to more with Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Their local experienced team will totally transform any room space, from beautiful floor coverings to construction to finished details. Harris handles every step of your renovation process, whether it's a kitchen or living room or an industrial or educational setting, like some of the positively stunning work they've done at Clemson University. Go to discoverharris.com and experience a total renovation transformation from Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Solero Communications, formerly known as Tandem Payment, is a full-service integrated electronic payments provider powered by leading-edge technology. Solero provides a wide array of merchant solutions, simplified payments. They make onboarding, taking payments, maintaining risk management and compliance, and getting support quick and easy. At Solero, they're all about helping you achieve sustainable growth as a business. Taking payments isn't the only thing your business needs. With Solero's solutions, you can manage inventory, sell products and services via social media, schedule staff, track sales, get reports, and much, much more. Find out more about Solero at solerocommerce.com. That's C-E-L-E-R-O commerce.com.
Then, D-Mac, this guy, from when I first met this kid at Godby High School and where he was in life and what he had been, what he had to overcome in life, it's amazing to watch him now. It's just what it's all about, and to see him being honored this way. This guy loves Clemson. He's a really good coach too. He's a very, very smart guy. He really understands the game. He's very respected. He's our senior defensive assistant now. He brings a lot to the room that people don't even know, he's got a great future in this profession, but it's just been awesome to see him grow and mature. He's got his master's degree. He's a great father. He's a great husband, and he's just an amazing story, from where he was to having to go to prep school, to trying to leave the prep school. I remember calling his grandmother, Miss Dot, and his godmom, Miss Kim, and I said, hang up on him. If y'all go pick him up, I'm never talking to you again, and this kid's he ain't going to make it. And, they left him. They left him. They wouldn't go get him. And, he hung in there, and it was the best. It's exactly what he needed. And to see him now, the maturation process of where he is, he just got a great story. And, he's got an unbelievable perspective because of the journey in life that he's been on. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal for him to be recognized as a Hall of Famer. So really happy for him. And again, it's means a lot. There's been a lot of great players come through here, for sure. And he's another one of those guys that's just always been – he's a Clemson guy, man. He's unbelievably committed. I'll never, ever forget, and Tim Beret can back me up on this, 2010, we lose that miserable game up there in Charlotte in the bowl game. We got 6 wins, and D-Mac's a senior. He's got a broken wrist. He don't have a dog in the fight no more. And man, he called that whole team up in the locker room, and got after them and challenged them. It's my second year, and he basically, paraphrasing here, and Tim, you can basically said, "Hey, look, we're building something special here, and you guys need to stay the course. You need to listen to Coach Swinney. You guys are gonna do this, and this." And it was a huge thing in that moment, from a culture standpoint. And then the next year we won the league, right? And just built our program to the top of the mountain, and we'll build it back to the top again. But it takes leadership like that. It takes great moments along the way like that as well.
Okay, sat down with DeAndre McDaniel yesterday afternoon, and if you hear music in the background later on in the interview, well, that's because we were sitting sort of right beside the weight room over at Dabo Land. All right, here we go. Enjoy. Okay, joined by DeAndre McDaniel. Man, I've known you a long time. Covered you. Been dominated by you on the basketball court at noontime basketball where I didn't belong. And now have the honor and privilege of talking about your Hall of Fame induction, man. Thank you. Or not thank you, but congratulations. And thank you, I guess.
Appreciate that, man.
What's this like for you?
Oh, man, I guess it's a dream come true. I mean, honestly, you play ball, but you never really think about the Hall of Fame. I guess you think about winning national championships, winning Super Bowls, and all those type things. But I guess Hall of Fame is just that recognition to be like, okay, you did well, And I think for like my family and my boys especially, my daughter don't care at all, but for my boys, they look at it and they think highly of it, So it's really big for me.
It's so funny. I was just I was interviewing Jeff Scott a couple days ago.
Okay.
Sat down with him, and he was like, his kids, they don't remember his time at Clemson, and so it doesn't mean as much
right.
to them. And so he was saying when they came back, they go to lunch or something, and people are all walking up to him, and his daughter Savannah's like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So that's cool. Like, it's been so, I guess it makes you feel old. It's been so long. Did your kids have a notion of what you did?
Well, my boys, obviously I got two older boys that's older than my daughter, but like my daughter is the one, like if someone walks up, she's asking, who is that? How do you know them? And sometimes it's people I don't know, so I really be like, okay, they just know me from football or from me coaching or whatever. But my sons, now that they're older, they kind of understand it, and I guess their friends, dads or whatever, told them about me, and so now my boys are starting to understand a little bit more. But at first, it's always, who is that? Who is this person? Why are they coming up to us? But now they get it.
4 kids.
4. Yeah. 4.
DeAndre Jr., Carson, London, and Cross. Tell me the ages.
Dude, well, my oldest, DeAndre Jr., call him Deuce. My granddad gave him that nickname. He always called him Deuce in the quarter. And he always called him Deuce in the quarter, so he gave him that name. He's 16. He's a junior in Orlando at Jones High School. Okay. And then Carson, who's at RC Edwards, 7th grade. He's 12 years old. Then we got London, who will be 7 here in a week. Should be 7 in a week. And then that's my princess. And then you have Cross, who's going to be the toughest of the bunch, but he's 2. Okay.
And I've seen you like out on 93 putting Carson through like boot camp and stuff, like running. Tell me what.
Yeah. So I love to run.
Yeah.
And one thing I don't allow him to do right now is lift weights. I'm real firm on that. Like, there's no reason for you to start lifting right now. You can do all the calisthenics type stuff you want to do, but as far as like lifting, I'm not going to allow that. But I run a lot, and he was like, well, if you don't let me lift weights, let me run with you. And I'm like, I run too far, and he was like, I don't care, I just want to run with you. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's be time for me to get him out here. I'm like, I'm going like 6 miles today, so you're probably going to be hurt. We're going to have to walk a lot, trying to scare him away a little bit so I can kind of get a run. But he ran the first 3 miles with me nonstop, and I'm like, okay, we could start doing this, So we kind of created a little bond with that, and then there's also a little time for us to just talk about life too. When you get out there on the runs, you start talking about everything. So it's kind of a moment for him to kind of open up to me to open up with him. Just adrenaline going. So it's just fun moments with him.
Have you run for a long time, long distance?
I've been running. Thomas Austin is who got me back into it. His first stint here before he left to go back to Georgia State, and I used to hate it, but then I started getting into it, and it felt so relaxing. And like I say, it just helps my mind. You know, that's when I'm out there and I'm in the open by myself, and I just could think and relax a little bit. And I got used to it, you know, and now it became habit. You know, so now I try to get at least 2-3 miles in a day.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What time? In the morning?
At lunch.
At lunch?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. No more NTBA.
Nah. Now if we have NTBA, I run in the morning.
Okay, so
Yes.
you're still doing some of the noontime basketball?
We probably play once or twice a week. You know,
Okay.
Wednesdays is normally our day, so we played yesterday because that's when Coach Swinney don't have interviews, so he'll get out there and he get to play with us on Wednesdays. So that's like a mandatory day.
Is he still not passing?
Oh, he scores. He definitely scores. Yeah.
I want to hear, how did you first hear about the Hall of Fame? Who told you? When was it?
Well, I didn't find out until team meeting. So this happened during, I think it was camp. We were in a team meeting, and it was Coach Swinney was talking. I guess it was like a surprise. He was like, "Well, I don't think y'all know any of the guys, former players we got on staff, you know. So we're gonna take days to kind of talk about these guys, you know, so y'all can understand who's coaching y'all, you know, who y'all dealing with every day." And he was like, "We'll do a few of them today." So I'm thinking in my head, like, this is about to be a long meeting. Like, if he's talking about me, you got to talk about Daquan, James Davis, C.J. Spiller. Like, this thing is about to get long, you know. And then he kind of broke that out, and it was more so a surprise, you know. And he showed my highlights, and he started with me, which was shocking because I'm like, you got C.J. Spiller them in here, so I don't think he would start with me. But then when I seen them on the side, I was like, okay, I kind of get it, you know. And then he broke the news, but it was fun.
Is it emotional?
It is, but once again, I think it's more so for me. It's more like gratitude, you know, just enjoying the process. It is emotional, but I think I take it in now. It's like, job well done, you know.
Yeah.
Like, play here at Clemson, and they appreciate what you did for them, you know. And I just look back on all the people that I met here, all the friends, the relationships I built here, you know. Like, that's what I look at now, you know. So
I know years ago the Hall of Fame ceremony was on a Friday night.
Friday.
Same deal now.
Friday night.
So you'll be excused from the team hotel duties, I guess.
So I'm excused every week.
Oh, that's right. Y'all stay home now, I guess. I guess a couple of years ago.
So every, the married guys don't have to go to the hotel. You know,
it's good.
He lets you come to the movie. So if it's a good movie, I always go get popcorn and icy and dress up just to go back home.
Yeah.
You know, but outside of that, you know, he allows us to stay home on Friday night and just get in early and get ready for recruiting.
Yeah.
You know, so that's our biggest thing. We get ready for that Saturday.
So who will be around you coming for that? And will Coach Swinney be there too, I assume?
Now, I don't know if Coach will be there because he normally goes to the hotel.
Yeah.
And the event starts at 7, and I know our bus leaves here at 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know my grandmother and my godmom and all of those, my Tallahassee people, their family, they'll be up. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I don't know who will be there around here.
You got to give a speech? I
think I do. I do. I don't think it has to be long. It'll be kind of quick, but I mean, I'm prepared for it. You know, I feel like I do something like that from the heart. You know, so just appreciation.
Nothing written down.
I don't think I really need it. You know, I think when you have the memories that you have and you've lived the life that you want to live, and you could talk about your fun times, your mistakes, and all those type things. I think it could come pure from the heart. Mm-hmm. You know, I think when you write something down, you start thinking about certain things, and then you're like, oh, I forgot this because I wrote this down. Well, I don't want to put that on my plate to where I try to remember things. You know, like off of paper. Yeah. You know, because I think I've created enough memories and fun times to where I can speak it from the heart.
Yeah. Coach Swinney just said the other day that you have done an amazing job of overcoming in your life, and he alluded to your life story, which I don't know the particulars of. So if you're okay, I'd like to sort of dig some of that back up and just all that. I know Tallahassee, of course. Most people know about that. Your grandmother, Miss Dot, godmother, Miss Kim. Mm-hmm. They basically raised you?
They raised me.
Okay.
They raised me. They'll both be here this weekend. So born and raised Tallahassee. My grandma took me in third grade. My mom, a lot of the mistakes, growing up, it was heavy on me because it was like, okay, a lot of this stuff she was doing, I kind of felt like maybe she was doing it for me, but then now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, that's just an excuse I always gave. But mom was in and out of jail. Dad obviously had another family, but I don't hold him accountable for any of that. Him and my mom went together. So my grandmother took me in. She raised me. She raised me and my little sister, and then ended up taking my little brother in as well once his grandmother on his dad's side passed away. She's the one who's been behind me 110%. My godmom has also been there since day one. So anything I needed, any extra help she could give, because she has two boys. My brothers, CJ and BJ, who obviously I consider my brothers. They say God brothers, but those are my brothers raised together. Everything we did was together. So they'll be here as well. But yeah, trying not to get emotional about it. But my godmom, she did what she could outside of her two boys. My grandmother, she gave everything she could, and I mean anything. I mean, when it came from me selling stuff at Gabi, like for like donations for football uniforms and all that type of stuff, like even those things, like I remember, like I was always the leader in everything, because she'll take stuff to the hospital and like all these people buying stuff. Like if we selling Valdea onions, every year I'm going to be the leader in Valdea onions, because my grandma's going to make sure I got enough sales to get what I need to get, so she made sure everything was taken care of, so that's my rock.
Is that your grandmother your mother's mother?
It is.
Okay.
Yep, she is.
Is your mother still around?
My mother is around.
Okay.
My mother is around. She won't make it up this weekend. She's still working on herself. Mm-hmm. She's still working on herself. I felt like I've given her enough opportunity to at least come up here with me, but I think she feels like she owes my sister them certain things down there in Tallahassee, and I think it's more so pride that she wants to feel like she's needed. I think she feel like she's not as needed here because my wife take care of my kids and all these things, and that I don't have to rely on her, where my sister, them, like if they have to go to work, they need her, so I think it's more so of a need thing, and I think she just wants to feel wanted, which she's wanted here, but I think she wants to really feel relied on, and here I think it's just a little different. But.
Now, when you refer to bringing her up here, you're talking about like bringing her up here to live.
To live.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's my girl too. Like I always tell her, like a lot of the pain. We had our talks, but a lot of my pain, a lot of the passion I played with was pain that was given from her. Like I used to hate being with friends and they with their mom and dad, but then they ask where mine at, and it's like, like here goes that question.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to answer those things, or okay, is my mom on vacation? Where is she? Or now I know I'm getting older, she's in jail, like, so now, people always don't talk about their mom, because you talk about the mom, it's going to start a fight. Well, yeah, you talk about my mom, it's going to start a fight, so a lot of pain and all that type of stuff was created because of, and once again, I can't use her as that excuse, but that's where my pain came from, so football was a way for me to let that pain out, and then if I get mad, a lot of anger issues, I could point that finger at her, but it shouldn't have been. Now that I'm older, I've allowed a lot of that to kind of roll down my back, and I understand, like, no, she can't be my excuse for acting crazy. Like, I'm my own person, but yeah, try to get her up here just so she could relieve herself a little bit.
Mm-hmm. What do you remember? I mean, when about you said third grade. I mean, did your grandmother basically just tell you the whole truth at the time, or did she wait to sort of give it to you in doses?
I'll say this, right? When you're in the projects and you're in the community that you're in, like you grow up quick. You know, you grow up quick. In third grade, you probably, if mom got to go somewhere, go do something, you're at home babysitting. You know, and I know that seems crazy, but that's real life for people that don't have nowhere else to take their kids to do certain things, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, I had to grow up quick, you know, so they can tell me something, but I was already aware, you know, so you can't tell me nothing I don't see. You know, I've been pushed down by police officers that's coming to arrest my mom, and I'm trying to fight, and they telling me I better go sit down before I go to jail, and I'm a young kid, you know, like I've been there, I've seen all this stuff, you know. So for me, like I've been aware, you know, and that's one thing that I always had to do is grow up quick, and that's why I always say I don't want to blame her for the pain, but a lot of stuff I couldn't enjoy because I looked at things totally different than all my other friends and all the other kids, you know. So,
do you remember when it was that you were able to sort of have that wisdom and to view it that way of not holding her to account and sort of forget the art of forgiveness?
Larry, you want to know what's crazy? Is this probably had to be? It's been recent. It's probably been in like the last 6-7 years since I've been back, you know, and like I didn't go to the NFL, you know, so once again I went back into a dark place, you know, on top of the anger that was already there, you know, the finger pointing. Now I'm pointing fingers at other people because now I didn't get drafted. So it's a lot more stuff going on in my head. So now my head is just running, like why is this, you know? So I got so many questions. You know, but then I get back here, you know, I finally like, okay, the biggest talk was with my uncle, right? I didn't know how to get a regular job because I didn't want to get looked at like a failure or something, you know, and my uncle's telling me, like, man, listen, you've accomplished more than half these people who you worried about judging you, you know, so don't worry about judgment. You know, you worry about taking care of your family. That's what your mindset should be. That's what your job is. Like, you got to be responsible now to take care of Deuce and take care of Carson because they were the two that was born, you know. And I'm like, for me, that's what registered to me and kind of picked me up to get like a regular job. And then when I got the regular job, I think that was just no NFL, a way for God to humble me, you know. Then go get a regular job, another way for God to humble me, you know. Like, okay, this is reflection time for you to find yourself, you know. And then when I finally became a GA and now Coach Swinney's talking about me hearing God again, me hearing, you know, I'm back in that world. You know, I'm back into football, something that I love, something that I always breathe, you know, and it brought me back, you know, and so I was able to reflect a little bit on like, why is this? You know, and I still remember my first devotion. I'm like, okay, what am I going to talk about? And the first thing I talked about was my life.
To in front of the team?
In front of the
coaches,
staff.
Yeah, staff.
You know, Coach Swinney wanted me to do it in front of the team, but I don't think I was ready for that. But I did it in front of the staff, and I mean, everybody was like, great job. Like, I didn't know this, and I didn't know that, I didn't know this. And, you know, so they kind of got to know it, but it was kind of like weight off my shoulders.
What'd you say? What was it?
Well, I just told them about life. I told them about my mom. You know, I told them about my dad. You know, I told them about not being drafted and where I was in this dark place and all this type stuff. So I was able to speak that, you know, and I was able to get rid of it, you know, kind of flush everything. And I think that's what made me realize, like, I can't continue to point finger. You know, I point finger at Drew Rosenhaus, you know, and he was my agent, you know, and I felt like now that I'm older, I'm like, man, he treated me so good.
Yeah.
You know, he treated me great, you know, had me in a condo, had me in a rental car for like a year almost. You know, like the stuff that I needed, he took care of. But because I wasn't on the team, which he had no control over, but I thought he did because that's how immature I was, he got blamed. You know, my mom get blamed, you know, stuff I do get, everybody get blamed, you know, and my dad get blamed because I don't know how to be a man. I gotta learn that on my own. You know, my grandma can't teach me how to be a man. She could teach me how to be responsible and all that stuff, but she can't teach me how to be a man. So all this stuff I have to figure out myself, you know. So when I was able to kind of flush that stuff and learn and kind of look in the mirror and be like, man, it's you. You know, take some accountability, put pride to the side and say it's you. You know, you got to fix you. Nobody else can fix you. You have to fix you. And I think once that happened, I think that's when I took the next step.
I'm not at all putting my upbringing anywhere near yours, but just as a means of sort of identifying with the long process. You know, my parents divorced when I was 5, and that affects you in ways that you don't even realize, you know, through your teenage years, college years, adulthood. So it takes just decades almost for it to wash away, you know, and for you to look at it with, okay, I'm cool, you know, everybody's flawed, you know, in this world. So refresh me on the NFL thing. You had an injury, is that?
I did. I fractured my wrist. I fractured my wrist Auburn game. I fractured my scaphoid. So it was going to be this whole 6-month process. So for me, I want to play football. That's, like I say, I love football. I didn't want to get surgery during the season. So when I finished, crazy story, and it's probably sound crazy to the agent world, but Chad Speck, who was here at Clemson, that's who I wanted to sign with. He had just signed Eric Berry, and I'm like, okay, I want to sign with Chad Speck. But Chad Speck was telling me to get surgery. But I wanted to play in the Senior Bowl. And Chad Speck was like, man, that's not important. You got film. The right things, you know what I mean? Like, telling me the right things. And I just, obviously, once again, immature. But then Rosenhaus, which he gave me the opportunity, like, man, what do you want to do? You know? And I was like, I want to play in the Senior Bowl. I don't want to get surgery right now because I won't be able to play in the Senior Bowl, you know? And him being Drew Rosenhaus, I'm listening to him, and he's telling me, like, all right, well, we'll go with that, you know? And I think I have to live with that decision because he allowed me to make that decision. But I think as a person who knows the game, now that I'm older, I thought he would have said, no, you can't play, don't worry about it, any of that. You need to do this, you know, kind of what Chad Speck did. But I went into the draft with a broken wrist, and they told me to get it fixed at the combine. They told me to get it fixed. So after the Senior Bowl, they told me to get it fixed. And I go to the little weekly thing, the week thing before the draft. It's like a week before the draft, and I'll go in there, and everybody has like cast on, braces on, everybody. So it's like really like, let's go see how your surgery went. But I haven't got mine scheduled, anything.
So all the other draftees had gone ahead and
so it's like an injury checkup.
Okay.
You know, so they do, like, they tell you what you need to get fixed, what needs to get done before the draft. And for me, I didn't want to get the surgery because I'm like, I don't want to miss the season. Like, that's just how much I love football. You know, like, I don't want to miss the season. Like, after my rookie season, I'll get it fixed wherever I'm at. You know, that's kind of how I was thinking about it. And I went to the draft. I still remember it to this day. Like, it was like this. Everybody came up to me, and it was like 3 doctors around me, 3 team doctors around me, and it was like, "Have you got your wrist surgery scheduled?" I was like, "Nah." I was like, and I put it off on Drew. I'm like, whichever team drafts me, you know, I'll play that season, and then we'll just get it fixed afterwards. You know, That's what I said. And next thing you know, like, the doctors looked at me like I was the craziest dude in the world. They, like, stared me down. I remember the stare, like how you're looking at me right now. Like, imagine 3 doctors looking at you like, man, you have to be the stupidest dude in the world.
Wow.
And all 3 of them looked at me. And I remember, I think it was the Tampa Bay guy. I think it was the Tampa Bay doctor. I want to say it was the Dolphins. And I don't remember who the other guy, probably was the Patriots or somebody, but I remember them looking at me in my face. And it was like their jaw just dropped. Like, did you really just say that? We told you to get this fixed in February, and you haven't got it fixed. You know, and then draft came a week later. And everybody say I was red flagged, but now that I'm older, once again, rightfully so. You know, like, it was a 6-month process, and I basically told them, like, I'm not going to listen and get your surgery. You know, I want to play football this year. You know, and whoever drafts me, I get it fixed with that team. And they looked at me like, dude, that had to be the craziest thing ever. You know, so I think that's kind of what pushed me off the grid. And, I mean, it is what it is.
Did the gravity hit you either sitting in front of those 3 doctors or during the actual draft?
That's how immature I was. The doctors, the look didn't affect me as much then because I still felt I'm going to get drafted, right? That's where I feel like the humbling had to come in because it's like, yeah, y'all looking at me crazy, but I don't care. I'm going to get drafted, play football, and move on with this, right? But during the draft, me not getting my name called, that was like the biggest disappointment. You know, like that was painful. And once again, that was another humbling experience because the next day, that Sunday, my grandma woke me up. So we went to church together on Sunday, you know, and I haven't been to church with her in a long time. But not getting drafted was like the biggest slap in the face. And I had a few teams calling me, but I still hadn't committed to nobody. So I wanted to go to church with my grandma and like just refresh, clear my mind, all this type stuff. And I remember it like yesterday. It was painful. And the pastor actually spoke to me that day. I don't know if my grandma told him she was bringing me with her, but he spoke to me that day, you know. And it was big. We met after church and everything, but it was something I needed, you know. And obviously I didn't make it, but I figured it out.
Did you sign as a free agent, undrafted free agent?
I signed with the Saints as an undrafted.
How long did that last?
Well, they cut me. And once again, which that situation was funny because I wanted to go to the Texans. And as Texans were like the perfect fit for me. And they coach, who was the only coach, their DB coach, was the only coach to call me and explain the situation. And he was like, man, we got one safety who's played in the game, and the other 2 safeties that we have here, they haven't even played in the game yet. Like, you could come here and y'all can compete. You know, like, he called me that night, and we talked through it, and I'm like, okay, like, I want to be a Texan. And Drew called me the next day, and he was like, well, the Saints are offering more money. They only have one safety on the roster right now, which is Malcolm Jenkins. And they haven't signed Roman Harper back. They haven't signed, I forgot, I want to say it was Prelo. They had like 2 older veterans too. And when I get there, they end up signing like 6 safeties.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up getting cut, and I felt like I never really got an opportunity there. And because they just had so many veterans in front of me. And I asked Greg Williams, I remember going to him. Now, this was before the Bounty Gate. And I end up going to him, and I'm like, man, like, I don't want to get cut for not being able to perform and show who I am. You know what I mean? If y'all cut me, at least give me an opportunity to fail, you know? And, like, that's why I would want to be cut, you know? And I thought I went with respect and everything else. I was trying to be as humble as possible. Like, hey, man, like, I don't want y'all to send me out of here, have me pack my bags, and y'all don't know what y'all have in me. You know, just give me a little opportunity and let me show y'all what I have. Man, that first cut came around, and they sent me out of there.
It's like a week?
You know, it was, well, I was there throughout camp.
Uh-huh.
You know, so we had 2 preseason games. And, after that second one, I was out.
And that was it? Like,
that was it with them. Yeah. So then I signed with Indianapolis. I was signed with them through the first week. And then onto their practice squad. But then they had 3 linebackers get hurt the same week. So since I was one of the last ones to sign, I was one of the first ones to get cut.
Yeah.
You know, and then obviously I'm like, okay, like this might not work out. But then the Chargers called me for futures. And I'm like, okay. So I went up there with Marcus Gilchrist for a while for my futures. And I stayed with Gilly for like 2 weeks. And they were telling me already like I was gonna have to get a physical, so I already knew my wrist situation was about to come up, and they didn't think it was as bad as it was, but they X-rayed it and I got cut the next day. You know, so, and that was pretty much the end of that. You know, Detroit called me again for futures, but I wasn't working out like that. Like once I got that surgery, everything was having to come out of my pocket, so I wasn't training like I was supposed to train or anything. You know, so when I got back to Detroit, I was there rookie minicamp, and I should say it didn't go well. I don't think I did bad, but I wasn't in shape like I needed to be if I was to assess myself. You know, but yeah, it was quick, like a quick year and a half.
When did it hit with finality that my football is over? Do you remember when that was?
It wasn't long after. I think when I left Detroit, I think I was okay with leaving. You know, I was okay with leaving, but I just didn't know my next step. You know, I was thinking about going Canadian, and I'm like, man, I wouldn't want to be that far away from my family. You know, so I was like, nah, that ain't it. You know, so I was okay with leaving football because I already felt like it wasn't playing right. You know, I felt like I didn't get drafted. I'm getting cut from these teams all because of a wrist injury. Like, I just felt like nothing was going my way anyway. So for me, I'm like, you know what? I'm over it with the politics and football and all this type of stuff. Like, I don't have to watch an NFL game. Like, my mind is over it. I could go be with my family. We could figure something out, you know. And my wife, who wasn't my wife then, man, she was like the most supportive of like everything. You know, she had a good job at Wells Fargo, and she was working Wells Fargo in Charlotte, and she was like a loan processor, and she was like doing her thing, and she was just like, man, if you want to train, you can train. If you want to find something, just find something. You know, I'm behind you either way, da-da-da, you know. So she always supported me since day one, you know, and that's what I needed, you know, and we just figured it out, you know, and I had to humble myself and get me a real job, you know. So
now after the 2009 season, you seriously thought about leaving early, right?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, I remember you called Dabo and said, I'm back. That's it.
Yeah.
And it was really not a whole lot of deliberation.
Yeah. So I wanted to leave. I wanted to leave. My grandma didn't want me to leave. Obviously, she still loves Coach Swinney to this day. You know, that's her guy. Yeah. You know, and I mean, I hope Tallahassee. You grew up a diehard Seminole. You know, so everybody been rooting Seminoles their whole life, but her. Orange all the way, you know. Coach Swinney, if he goes, she goes. You know, like that's how she rolled. Like she loves Coach Swinney, she trusts Coach Swinney, and she was just saying like, hey, like you need to get your degree. You know, you need to get your degree so if football don't work out, like you can have something to fall back on. You know, like she was like 100% honest and pure with me, and like I still was kind of going against it, but then like I said, I remember sitting down in my room one day and I was just thinking, I was looking at it, I was like, you got Earl Thomas, you had Earl Thomas coming out, you had Taylor Mays coming out, you had Eric Berry coming out, you had all these safeties coming out, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, man, like I feel like I could play with any of those dudes. And I was like, if I came out next year after I got my degree, I'd probably be the only safety, you know, like I don't know any safeties right now that'll be coming out with me, and that's kind of where I banked at. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go at grandma and go get my degree, but next year I'm just gonna put the icing on the cake. You know, and I still felt like I had a great season. If I'm not mistaken, I think I led the team in interceptions and tackles, and just didn't work out. You know, but that's part of life now. You know. Did
you spend any time later thinking, what if I? Because the wrist injury obviously happened in
and a lot of people ask that question, you know, and what if, you know, I don't know, you know, I can't think about that. And that's one thing that I think early on that I never allowed to get in my head, you know, because I think when you make the decision, you can live with it, you know, but when someone else make the decision, those are the ones that's hard to live with. So once again, it's kind of like I was okay. My grandma didn't force me to come back. She still put it in my hands. She just gave her opinion. So for me, it was me to sit down and think, okay, how can I do this? How can I do that? You know, but then when I get something like the Texans versus the Saints, I feel like I let somebody else make my decision. So I started pointing fingers because I let them make that decision, which is not their fault at all, but I still feel like I got somebody to blame. But no, I never let that creep into my head on the what ifs. A lot of people ask, man, or they say, man, you should have left your junior year. I say, no, man, I did right by me. You know, I did right by me, and I'm okay with that.
What was the real job you got?
Walmart. Walmart.
Okay, so this is like 11, 2011, 12?
2012. It's 2012-ish, yeah.
Where?
Walmart in Charlotte.
Charlotte, okay.
Yeah. So so if people see all these Walmart people that work at Walmart on my Facebook, those are some of my old coworkers. No, but man, listen, I lie to you not. It was humbling, but it was also like one of the most funnest experiences. Like, they put me in electronics, so I was like dealing with stuff like I knew what I was talking about. But even when I get like Clemson fans and type stuff like that, it was always love. You know, I always felt like I could help them. You know, like if they wanted a TV, it was like, oh, I can help you. You know, and then when I was like, oh, no, don't worry about this. You want to get a TV like this? We got some in the back that's already been open. I could sell it to you for 15% off.
You don't want that BlackBerry. You want this BlackBerry.
Yeah. So I felt like I was able to help people in my type of way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, man, I think it was an amazing experience. And then the workers there, once they figured out who I was, you know, they showed me a different type of love too. But it was always fun. Like all my coworkers there was like amazing.
How long?
I worked there almost a year.
Okay.
Yeah, it was almost a year until Coach Swinney called me. So this would have had to probably be 13. This would have had to be 2013. I was working at Walmart because I worked there through 14, and then that's when I got ready to get the GA job here. Mm-hmm. You know, so yeah, but it was good.
So he calls you and just says, "Hey, I want you to come back."
Crazy. I came back for the Florida State beatdown that we took in 13.
Oh, wow.
That we took in 13. I came back to that game. And because I was up in Charlotte, and I'm like, me and my brother, we're going to make it to the game. Funny. I'm going to keep talking, but I'm going to show you something. Because he obviously, I told you they all Florida State fans, but he sent me this the other day. But I'm at that game, and Coach Swinney, we talking. He like, what you doing, and all this type of stuff. So I'm showing you a picture. I know they won't be able to see it. But me and my brother on the sideline right there. So we're on the sideline right there. So that's my brother here to the right. And that's me.
And with the hood?
That's me in the hood.
Okay.
Yep. So we're standing on the sideline of that game. And after the game, I talked to Coach Swinney. And he was asking me, like, what I was doing now and all that type stuff. And I tell him I'm at Walmart, you know, and he's like, Walmart, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, what you doing and how's it going and all of that. And we just sparked back up football, and it's like, well, keep in touch with me and all that type stuff. So I got a beat on Mike Hamlin leaving for the Bills. Obviously, I played with Mike, and Carico was already here, so they both was kind of telling me what was going on. I was like, well, I'm going to just text Coach. And when I texted him, he was like, I was already thinking about you. You know, but give me a few days to see if this going through, and then we'll figure something out. And it worked out, you know. So,
what's it like to move your family from Charlotte for a GA job?
So it was crazy. Now this is funny because this is how God worked, right? My wife was like killing it in Charlotte, and she still does hair. But she was doing Wells Fargo, and her and one of her friends had just opened up a hair business. So they were like killing it. She was killing it. So Wells Fargo ended up doing a major layoff, and she was one of the ones to get fired. Uh-huh. So she was like, okay, I'm just going to go all in on my hair business. And she was still dominating in the hair business, but things started to slow up for her. She was like, I want to go to the shop, but I don't think this is, like, it doesn't feel right. Like, I feel better just doing hair in my area. and because they were paying a person to like rent out the booth, but the booth was like way across town. So she didn't like what she was doing at the time. So when I got the call, things weren't going well in the moment anyways. You know, it was a lot of questions already. And that's the first thing Coach Swinney told her, like, if y'all take this job, you got to be all in. You know, like, if you're not all in, I'm not hiring you. You know, and she basically was like, I'm all in. You know, I'm all in. I'm ready to go. You know, because he was like, in this job, you need a supportive wife, you know, and she stood on the table like, wow. I'm behind him 110%. You know, if this is his passion, I'm willing to move my hair business to Clemson, and we could go that way.
Yeah. Upstate folks, and particularly Clemson area folks, there's a great tradition that's been going on recently in Westminster, the Music on Main free music festival in downtown Westminster. I can vouch for it, having played there and also attended on several occasions. It's put on by the Westminster Music Center, a nonprofit organization with the mission of promoting the joy of live music in the community. Saturday, October 21st will feature two bands, the Songs from the Road touring band and my band, Amongst the Trees, although I won't be there because I have to work. There's a football game that day. Classic car show starts at 3. Concert starts at 5. More info, go to westminstermusiccenter.org. Upstate foodies, want to take a moment to talk to you about our favorite taco spot, Willie Taco. 5 locations across the upstate. This award-winning team has been serving up fresh taco fusion for a solid decade now. The chefs at Willie Taco utilize the freshest, most creative, and sometimes unexpected ingredients in their kitchens. Come see why Southern Living, Garden and Gun, and Food and Wine Magazine are raving about Willie Taco and their signature offerings, such as their Southern Tide, Crispy Avocado, Nashville Hot Chicken Tacos, literally flavors you will not find anywhere else, folks. And don't forget about the cocktails, super fresh margaritas, ice cold cerveza, and over 80 tequilas served up daily from behind the bar. So don't wait, folks. Your Willie Taco Familia is ready to serve you up their twist on funky, fresh fusion. It's the Willie way. Want to share a quick word about Founders Federal Credit Union? If you've been to a sporting event in Clemson, you've probably heard about Founders already. They are the official credit union partner of the Clemson Tigers. In addition to that, all Clemson faculty, staff, and students are eligible for membership as well as IPTAY members. Its office is located beside the Wal-Mart Neighborhood Market on Old Greenville Highway in Clemson. For more information, go to foundersfcu.com. Another loyal supporter of the Dubcast is Blackacre Law Firm in Greenville, a subsidiary of Parham Smith & Archenhold. Blackacre helps South Carolina residents achieve their dreams of home ownership by providing experienced professional representation for real estate closings. Attention to detail is crucial in real estate law. Blackacre is committed to making sure nothing gets by them preparing residential or commercial closings. Blackacre also offers estate planning services for their clients in the Greenville area. Find out more about Blackacre at 864-326-3507. Okay, you grow up maybe a punt away from Doak Campbell, no right?
Yeah.
It's right there, right?
Yeah, you can hear the band. You ain't at the game, you can hear the band from the house.
Is that your first memories, is being able to hear football games?
Oh, yeah.
You had posters of Deion Sanders and Charles Woodson on your wall?
Oh, yeah.
And that's why you wore number 2?
I had them in my locker too.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you explain why you did not end up at Florida State?
My family didn't want me to stay in town.
Mainly your grandmother and godmother.
Godmother. Nobody wanted me in town. Now said it's my group. You know, I had a group of guys that, and I'll say this, half of my friends did sign somewhere to play football, but I think when I became a bigger name, a lot of the community was starting to follow behind me, you know, or everybody was around, and I don't think I had a way of pushing people back. I was more accepted than a lot of people, you know, so I had always had large groups around me, and they was just thinking, like, this ain't the place you want to be, you know, like, after you win a football game, this is what you coming home to, you know. I used to tell people I felt like when Florida State brought recruits in, like, they're looking forward to me to host, you know, like, I didn't need them to host me.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was so big in the city at the time that I felt like a Florida State person couldn't host me. Like, I'm going to bring y'all to the parties that I go to.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's how it was, and that they didn't want me in town. You know, and they was just like, this ain't the place. You know, like, if you want to go somewhere, be successful, and grow, you're going to have to get away from the city. And I thought I honestly was going to LSU. That's where I thought I was going with Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and all of them down there, because I loved my visit down there as well. But when they met Coach Swinney, and he came down for the first time. It was like a wrap. Yeah. And then I came here and I met Brian Dawkins, who was my favorite safety. I'm still a big-time Eagles fan. And he was like my guy. Like, never met him. And I don't even know if y'all remember, but I remember it like it was yesterday because it was like a dream. He was in center field with the pink blazer on. He had a pink blazer on at the spring game.
Yeah.
And I was in the stands, and I had drove up here with T.J. Williams and my quarterback, Emmanuel Francis, and I got to meet him at halftime.
Did you initially push back on this idea from your inner circle, the people that supported you? Hey, you don't want to, you can't stay here? I mean,
no, I never pushed back.
Okay.
I think because I always felt like when it came from my grandma and my godmom, I felt like even growing up, like they were the ones in my circle. Mm-hmm. You know, like if they say, like, that's something that I respect and that's something that I listen to. I always tell people, like, people can ask me how you do this and how you do that because like I said, I grew up quick. It was nobody that I felt I had to follow. Like I've always considered myself self-motivated. I always considered myself a natural leader. You know, like I don't need to follow anybody. I don't need anybody telling me what to do because it's not going to happen that way. You know, but when it comes from grandma and godmom, who I felt like raised me and brought me up and never told me anything wrong. Maybe they have, but I never believed it, you know, kind of like Waterboy, right? It's like what mama says, it goes, you know, but I always believed it, you know, and when they said it like at first I didn't really understand it, but now that I'm older, it's like, come on, it was no doubt, you know, like no question. Like it was the right decision to leave. I
think I read somewhere that when your grandmother took you in, she took you to, is it pronounced Havana, not Havana?
Havana.
It is pronounced Havana.
Florida.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Small town.
Oh, yeah.
Is that where you ended up going after third grade?
Oh, Havana.
For the rest of your childhood?
And it's the country. And I hate it. I hate Havana so much.
You still do.
Listen, I love the people there because I don't know who might hear this podcast. I love the people in Havana. But my grandma, like, she has, so it's my grandma's house. My great-grandmother's house was right in front of hers. And far back was my auntie Tammy. She had a trailer behind them. So it's like a big old yard.
Commune or something.
Oh, my goodness. It's the country. Like dirt road. Like you're on dirt road. Like everybody in that area knows each other. Like if a dog barked from around the corner, like you even know who dog it is. You know, like based off of where you at in the yard, you know who yard it is. Like that's how country it is over there. Like you don't take your trash to the road. Like I'm going back there finding a way to burn the trash every day. You know, like we burnt the trash back there. Like, but I hated it. But I mean, I loved it as well. But it was just so country because I had no friends out there. You know, it was just when I felt like I was out there, it was always work. Like I'm cutting the yard or I'm burning trash or whatever. You know, and then when I get in the house, all it is watching TV and everybody knows if you're watching TV with grandma, you're watching the stories. You're watching God and Light and all that type stuff. So you're watching the stories on TV, so you hate that as a kid. And so I'm in my room. I might, if a football game on, that's the only time I get to watch sports, you know. But I hated being out there, so I found my way to Tallahassee. My godmom's, her house is actually the one that's like right there by Florida State.
Okay.
You know, so that's where I stayed most nights because it was so easy for me to get to school because Gavi was right down the road.
Yep.
But even when I went to Story Park, Bellevue, like everything was so easy to get to from her house.
What's the worst thing you remember just from the being in the projects and
worst thing?
Yeah.
I don't think when I was in the projects, I had a lot of fun, you know, because it's a lot of kids, you know, you have a lot of fun. There's a lot of kids. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of fights, trash talk. You grow up quick in the projects, right? And it really wasn't no bad moment. Now, I did burn down the apartment complex. I had to be about 8. I had to be about 8 years old, and I ended up burning down the kitchen in the projects. So they had everybody was out there. My mom threw me out the window first. I had to catch my sister, and then she came out the window next. But I woke up one morning, fixed me some grits, and you had the instant grits that you could put in the microwave. But for me, for some dumb reason, I cut the oven on, and the grits paper.
Oh no!
So I get the grits paper and I catch it on fire, and I didn't know where to put it. I mean, I'm 8 years old, so what I do, I don't put it in the sink. I throw it in the trash.
Oh man!
And trash there's a lot of paper in there. It just catches on fire. So now it catches everything else on fire in the kitchen, and they have to come and put it all out. But that was probably one of the worst things while I was in the projects. And obviously all this happened before I was 8, 9 years old, so my memories for that is kind of slim because it wasn't as much. I was out of there by the time third grade hit. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest ones that I remember because I was one of the older ones. So
you said your dad had another family and was out of the picture the whole time, totally out of the picture?
Now, I'll say this. Now, I don't want to say it because my dad and me and my dad still talk to this day. My dad has been there. Like if I needed something and I'm like, hey, Dad, I need shoes for school, like he'll send me money to get shoes for school, like he was always there, I should say financially. Mm-hmm. If I needed something for school, he'll take care of it. And he came to games, you know what I mean? Like I don't remember him coming to as many when I was in like little league and middle school and those type things. But when I got in high school, he'll show up to games. He was there for games, and even in college he came to games. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say he wasn't like there in the picture. My dad was there, but to teach me how to be a man, to teach me how to grow, he wasn't there, and I don't think he had any say. How I grew up, he didn't have any say, and I don't think he could have ever told me what to do and how to do anything. I wouldn't call or believe on him in any advice. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just because I don't feel the relationship was there or strong enough. I listened to my Uncle Tim before I listened to any male. And but yeah, he was definitely there. So I wouldn't want to make it like he wasn't in my life because he was definitely supportive financially. He just wasn't supportive. He couldn't be supportive mentally, mm-hmm. Because we didn't have a relationship.
You said that once Dabo Swinney came down and met your grandmother and godmother, it was a wrap.
Yeah.
So he connected with them. Mm-hmm. What was that connection? And I get with you as well. I just Coach Swinney is just he's natural. He's naturally a people's person, and he's always himself. And with them he speaks faith, and that's right down my grandma alley. You speak in faith, you speak in life, like. That's right up her alley, and she believed him because she felt it was authentic, and if she could question him on it or say something about it, he had an answer for it, So I think that's one thing. Like you get a lot of people come in there and they might say something about faith, but when she throw a question at them and like, okay, you a Christian or you this, like, well, what's your beliefs in this? And a lot of them, they get choked up now, and I think everything she asked him, he was prepared for. And then he probably got the toughest of them all because he was under Tommy Bowden and his dad was Bobby Bowden. And he'll tell you, because Swinney always tell you, every time he came into the house, my granddad would be sitting on the chair. And he always tell him, like, I don't know why you keep coming here. He ain't going to the little Bowden. He ain't going. Why would he go to the little Bowden when the big Bowden right up the road? So he had this old saying where he used to give Coach Swinney a hard time. That was great.
A hard time. And but Coach Swinney always laughed it off and joked with him, and so they all fell in love with him, and it was all natural, And I think that's why they felt the generosity.
He's been through his own hardships and upbringing and all that. Yeah. Did that resonate with you early? Did he share that? Was that part of the connection?
He did. But, for me, I think back then, once again, I think I trusted what my grandma and godmom felt. You know, if they felt it. So a lot of people would talk to me and try to talk to me through football. You couldn't get me with football because my mindset already was, I was so self-motivated to the point where I felt, I don't care where I'm going to play football. Like, I love football that much. Like, it's going to be hard. Like, I could go anywhere and play football. I'm not worried about that. Like, don't even bring me your roster. I don't care about your roster, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to compete. And I just think when they felt his energy and they fell in love with him and they was like, okay, we have to get up to Clemson and see what all this talk is about. When they felt that, it was like, okay, you know, this guy sold him. You know, I've had guys come in and tell me, like, you can play both ways, you know, and even Arkansas, Chris Vaughn, I still talk to Chris Vaughn to this day. His son just got picked up by the Cowboys, and he's a scout for them, for the Cowboys as well. He's the one they let do the call for his son to draft him. And still keep in touch with him. And he told me I could play both ways, you know. And I don't know to this day if that was just a recruiting tool, but I love Chris to this day. But it was just something different when Coach Swinney came and spoke to the family.
You've talked about how hard it was when people say, hey, where's your mom? Mm-hmm. But what about, let's flip it. There were people who didn't have as much as you had in terms of your mother hens.
No question.
Your grandmother and godmother. Mm-hmm. Where would you be? Where would you have ended up without them?
Listen, I'll say this. I know for sure. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. You say without them. Man, without them, I don't know. I'd probably be dead or in jail, honestly. Mm-hmm. You know, I hate to say it that way, but that's probably where I would be with none of their guidance. But once again, I do think I've always been, like I say, I've always been self-motivated. I've always been a leader myself. I knew even with my mom, I had to grow up quick. Once again, when I burnt down the house, what I was doing, I was fixing my grits at like 8 years old. Yeah. You know, like I'm up in the morning doing this. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's something I'm playing with the stove and everything else at 8 years old. So I'm getting up and I'm doing this stuff on my own. You know, so I feel like I was already a little more advanced than a lot of guys. But like without them and putting it in order, you know, I probably would be in jail somewhere, you know, especially with that built up anger that I was already dealing with, you know, especially when my grandma knew how to deal with it, you know, because she had to go through the same stuff. It's her daughter. Yeah. And then it's her son, you know, my Uncle Tim that I speak highly of, he was the same way. He was in and out of jail. But, man, when he was out, he was checking on me, you know, so. But, yeah, it was her situation the same.
You might have gone into the DSS system, I guess, and in and out of that, foster, you know. Yeah. That's the normal path. I'm sure you had friends who went through that route. Dabo the other day was telling a story about when you were at Hargrave. First of all, how tough was it when you first learned you didn't qualify and you couldn't come here in, would that have been 2006?
Yeah. So, I don't mean to make this this won't be a long story. I'll do it quick. But I bust my butt to qualify. And what I ended up doing, I ended up telling somebody that I was thinking about going to FSU, which it traveled. And when it traveled, it woke up a lot of people because now it's like, okay, the school is Florida State fans. Everybody around there Florida State people. So now these teachers are everybody wanting to help me. Oh, come after school. Signing day's in February, right? So I have to sign. I knew I was going to Clemson, but the word traveled that he's thinking about Florida State. So now that I'm older, I shouldn't even care. But a teacher had to tell one of the Florida State people that I was thinking about coming to Florida State. And now that's word that he's probably going to decommit on signing day and go to Florida State. These teachers are busting their butt to get me qualified. Like, lie to you not. Like, every day I'm after school getting my grades and doing, like, making up work. Me and our quarterback, Emmanuel Francis, he had to go to Hargrave with me. And I ended up signing with Clemson in February. And I think all I needed was a B in one of these classes. The guy ended up giving me a C in the class. And I think I ended up getting 2 C's on that thing, but they didn't qualify me. So I had to go because I had already made a 17 on my ACT, but I needed an 18. And
you think it's because they were Florida State fans and they're mad? You're not saying, but you're just saying.
Yes, exactly. So I think it had a lot to do with that. Now that I'm older, that's what I think it had a lot to do with. And I still hate it to this day. That's one of the things that always bothered me. But I think Hargrave helped me so much. It helped me so much. It helped me develop a lot as well. I felt like I was already responsible, but being in that military school brought out a different responsibility as well. Waking up at 6 in the morning, marching and putting on the suit on Sundays and, all this stuff, even walking almost 2 miles just to go to practice, and you just talking with guys that then from different parts of the world, that's there just to try to make football work. And you building all these relationships. And like a lot of these guys I still have relationships with. Like we was at Hargrave together. I hate to say it, it's like being in prison together. Like we were in jail together, so we knew the struggle. We talked about everything. And that was a special time. Because Swinney probably talked about me crying to go home, huh?
Yeah, Miss Dot and Miss Kim, they were going to get you, and he said, you better not go get him, or else it's going to ruin him.
Yeah.
What's your perspective of that?
Yeah. He did the right thing. And once again, that shows the man he is and the man that they believe in. That's my respect for him, and I know a lot of people sit there and they like, oh, you're loyal to Coach Swinney, like I'm the most loyal to Coach Swinney, and I will forever be loyal to him because of that. Like he's had my back from the beginning, and but yeah, he told them straight up, like, y'all can't go get him, like, because if he goes back to Tallahassee, it's not going to work out. You talking about taking him to a community, TCC, like he's not going to be 100% committed. This military school is going to wake him up every day, make sure he's doing what he needs to do to qualify. Like that's their everyday duty. Like you telling me y'all going to put that on him to do it? Like now that's not happening. And even now that I'm older, it wasn't happening. Like I'm gonna try to find a way to be like, I ain't going today, or I ain't doing this week, or whatever. But yeah, he told him if I come home, then he's done. Like he's not going to waste energy on it. Because obviously it's not going to work. And I don't think it would have worked if I would have did it. I just didn't want to be in a military school. And, but yeah, my godmama, grandma, they called me and it was like, oh, you staying. You staying, you going to make sure you do your job. It bothered me at first, but man, after like the first 2-3 days and everybody get used to each other, man, it became easy. So I'm happy he actually stood on the table for that.
So your plan was to go back home and go to community college to get your grades.
Oh yeah, to get ready to take the next test.
Yeah.
And he was like, nah, that's not gonna work. And which it wouldn't have, because Hargrave teaches you how to take the test. And every day you're going to classes and they're teaching you how and what you need to look out for, the tricky words and all this type stuff, what you need to prepare for, and next thing you know, I go from a 17 to a 22, just off of my first test, off of learning the techniques on how to take the test, and my score jumped that high, so I definitely don't think I would have did it if I would have did it my way, and that's one thing I respect on him. He's been through it, he's lived it, and he gave that advice on like, man, that's not gonna work. Like we're talking about an 18-year-old, well, at the time, probably 17-year-old, like saying that he's going to be responsible enough to get up every day. All right, he already wasn't responsible enough to do it while he was in school.
Yeah.
So now we're saying we're going to give him that responsibility to get up every day and try to go get it done at TCC on his own. It's not going to happen. So that's him and his experience and him giving my grandma them advice because they just wanted to listen to me. You know, I'm the baby, and it's like we want to support him, you know, but now we got this guy telling us, nah, it shouldn't happen that way. But they trusted him because he's been that way and he's been so real and authentic with them from the beginning. I don't know if they would have listened to any other coach, you know, but for him, he stood on the table on what he believed in, you know, and it worked out.
Were you getting recruited by other coaches while you were at Hargrave?
Oh, yeah.
Which ones?
So technically a lot of the guys, so Louisville, I was still kind of open to them, and only reason I was open to them is because they had two of my guys going there, and that's probably one of the biggest ones that I remember. NC State,
okay,
and they had another one of our safeties who I really liked playing with. I was like, I could see myself doing that.
Is there going to be a ceremony during the game Saturday?
They'll do a halftime. So they'll do a halftime ceremony where I guess they just introduce everybody in their jackets. And I guess we wave to the crowd or whatever. I don't know how they'll do it. I've never seen one. I'm always in the locker room at halftime, but I guess they let them wave to the crowd or whatever, might introduce them. Or
what's this like? Hall of Fame, Florida State.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's funny to me. Like, you want to know what's funny? Is that everybody always talk about the Florida State play, and I'm like, man, that is a memorable play. But like, I felt like I had so many more plays than the Florida State play.
You did.
You know?
You did.
So I'm like, gosh, like I remember it for that play, and I'm happy for it. You know, but it's like, gosh, but Florida State hometown team. You know, grew up at Die Hard. No, actually, you know, it's just a blessing. You know, it's crazy.
I think you have another interview to do, so I don't want to infringe on that. But thank you so much, man, for sharing. What a great story, and I'm honored to be able to tell it.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Larry. I appreciate you having me.
Man, the old saying, "It takes a village." It's such a truism that applies to so many lives, and the fact that D-Mac had his grandmother, godmother, Dabo Swinney, others who wrapped their arms around him. Just an amazing story. And tonight will be an amazing night for him as he's able to be officially inducted into the Clemson Athletics Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him. And also congratulations to all the people who supported him along the way. I'm sure he would say that as well. Appreciate the support of our sponsors for helping make this happen. And, of course, thanks to every single one of you for giving us your time to listen. Cheers.